Hello everyone, this is Reggie Patterson and welcome to this week's Tuesday tip. This week I want to talk about how to add in experiential content to your PLR to make it unique. So let's go ahead and get started. And so when you start talking about what am I going to add to the PLR in order to make it unique, trying to position yourself as an expert is difficult. There are a number of people who really are experts, and then there's everybody who calls themselves experts. You don't have to do that. There's an alternative to that. When you start talking about what am I going to add to the PLR, what am I going to do in terms of positioning, and so if maybe you're at the point where proving that you're an expert is going to be difficult at this point in the marketplace, you can add something different to a product, right? Specifically to PLR. You can add in what I call experiential content. And basically what we're doing is we are taking our experience and the experience that we have and we're putting that inside of the PLR and giving it a different angle. Experience is always unique. And that's one of the easiest ways which we can take PLR and differentiate it, is adding in our own experience. Once again, this kind of serves the whole idea that when we buy PLR, we're buying PLR within this sort of narrow scope of things that we already know well. Because if you buy outside the area that you know well, then adding your experience isn't going to work. But if you start thinking along the lines of, okay, I'm going to keep focus, I'm going to buy within this narrow element, you're then going to have all those products inside of your funnel the way we've discussed because you're leveraging what PLR really does well. You're making it unique and sellable based on the fact that you're adding real value through your own experience. And again, now you're going to have a way of making sure that you catalog your experience. And most people don't do this, not because it's hard to do, but just because it's a discipline. And so this really means that the experiences that you have that are relevant to your customers, you have to document them. And you have to do it on purpose. You must do it intentionally. You have to document what you plan to do. You have to document how you execute it. You have to document what the results were. You have to document what you used to measure what success was, and in every point in time along the way when you start talking about documentation. And you don't have to have a specific tool to do this. That's not the most important thing. What you have to focus on when you document is, do I have a tool that I can use any place? Typically you're talking about a tool you can use on mobile, or if you use a tablet or your desktop. It needs to be archivable. So in other words, you put something in there and it's still going to be available to you in a year's time if you need to get it. It needs to be searchable. So in other words, you can go into the database, you can put in search terms in order to find something you put in there. And then it needs to be collatable. So what you need to do is you can go and get it, and you can easily get it into something that you're using. So again, experiential content that you have cataloged through some kind of tool. You can use a number of different tools in order to do that. And then there's some called Evernote and other things like that, where you're basically documenting the things you're doing every single day because that's where you're going to be adding your content. Now, the good thing about adding experiential content is you can talk about it in ways that make it unique. I mean, you can talk about it as either a story or you can talk about it with specifics and things you actually did. But again, if you think about some of the best content that you probably experience, it always breaks up the information with stories, and this is where you bring your stories into play. Now again, if you don't have stories to tell and you're telling your stories outside of your area of expertise, you might be getting PLR in the wrong area. Now the key to this is the discipline of documentation, even when you're unmotivated to document. And so if that's the case, what will motivate you to document is making sure that you have an obligation to share with people. This typically means that you've got a blog where you need content like that, or a podcast, or an information product, or some kind of book. Basically something where you have to share your findings on a regular basis. Some kind of regular training where you're teaching people on a regular basis. Doing these things will help you to develop the discipline of documentation because you're obligated to do it. You're obligated to create the content. And so, as a result of that, you're going to have that documentation, if not for these other reasons, having a blog, podcast, information product, book, or white paper. And so when you do that, you've got all these unique elements and experiences that you could add to your PLR. And then all of these things make your PLR more unique and more sellable. Okay, remember, you can get access to our newsletter at IamProfitsCoach.com. And if you are interested in learning more about how you can use PLR to grow your traffic and profits, my team has put together a special training course that shows you exactly how to do that. You can check it out by going to impc.ws/PPL if you're interested in that. Also, be sure to take a look at our Digital Retirement Rebels Insiders Club at impc.ws/14day. Okay, so with that, thanks for hanging out with me today, and I will see you next time. Take care.